good to meet you. Nice to Margaret. So good to meet you. Come on in. Hi, Frank.
How are you?
Y'all met Leslie, right?
Yes.
Out on the porch.
Well, here's to you ladies.
What I was wondering is what made you all want to be here with me today? I've been thinking a lot about why I wanted to do this response to my menopause journey, which has not been a fun one. And I was kind of interested in how you guys came to this day to do this project.
For me, it was just, I felt totally blindsided by all of the things that have happened to me. And maybe women didn't want to complain, or, you know, in my family, we're just one generation away from my grandmother, who was just like, you never talk about anything negative ever. And certainly not anything having to do with all your lady business. So I don't know, it's ridiculous. Anything I can do to get the word out for younger women or women who are just entering into perimenopause, I'm all about it.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I have a 19-year-old daughter, and I realized as I started going through hormone change, how, you know, at the same time as she is going through hormone change, how important it was for me to sort of articulate what was happening for me, because my mother had a hysterectomy at, I think she was 45, so there was no conversation about it at all. And it's, you know, I'm a health practitioner as well, and what I was noticing is my perspective on menopause and perimenopause from sort of a clinical perspective completely shifted once I started personally going through it, because you can't, it is hard to articulate until you're actually experiencing it. And I think that is the reason I wanted to be a part of this, because I think the more women can tell their stories and accumulate that information, because everyone's story is so different, so you can't just orient towards one story as being representative of what you're going to go through. So that was a big part of my interest, is just hearing from other women too, and sharing.
Well, I wonder if that's what's hard about, you know, the medical industry not being able to really help us go through it. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but I think part of it is that it's not like there's a list of symptoms like, oh, well, you know, you have a hot flash and then this thing is going to happen and clearly this is what's happening to you. And for so many women, it doesn't go in that really predictable order. And for such a long time, you think there might be something else wrong with you. And so, I mean, I think that might be part of why, you know, menstruation, it's really clear there's like one main thing that happens, and it's really clear what's happening to you.
Yeah.
But it's not so clear to, you know, figure out when you're in perimenopause. And I think lots of women don't realize that it can start in your late 30s too. So lots of times you're having random things happen to you and you're going, well, I'm only, you know, 39 or 42, so it must be some other thing that's happening to me.
That's a really good point. There's no point of demarcation. Like, you start your period, but when you start perimenopause, it's this long progression of changes that you've been accommodating at each year of your life, late in your 30s into your 40s. And so when it finally, really the overt things like hot flash started for me, that was when I first really oriented towards that. And at that point, you know, I was pretty well in. I just hadn't been able to identify that that's what had been going on until it was in retrospect, really.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I just thought it was summer in Texas.
And there's that.
You know? Yeah, when it happens in the winter, then you kind of have to take pause, but yeah.
Well, and I didn't know that the other stuff was, I mean, I started having hot flashes and I thought, well, dang, I mean, I guess that's what's happening right now. That's a pretty clear, like, that's the one everyone knows about. It's the one we all make fun of in pop culture, right? But I still didn't know that all the other things that were happening in my body were related. And so, and I don't even think I knew really that there was something that you can do about it, or that you might want to talk about with your, you know, health people to do something about it. You just, I don't know, I guess maybe I imagined there'd be a few hot flashes. I'd stick my head in the freezer. I'd yell at my spouse a few times, and then my period would stop. And
Right.
you know, like, and that would be like pretty much how it happened. And it just didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
It didn't happen that way. Susie,
I feel
cut
like
you off.
there's like, it's kind of like a death by 1,000 cuts. You just like have all these little things that are kind of happening and you just cope with them like we do. You know, you just kind of take care of it and also ignore it. And you don't really realize that it's even happening. And what my interest is to find a way to thrive rather than just survive through this, and find a way that I can be my best self throughout this. And for me, I was, I had a few pounds I couldn't get rid of,
I'm so
little
happy it was just a
sluggish,
few for
right, right, a little sluggish, having to take a nap every afternoon, a lot of brain fog. And I was trying to kind of be pro-aging and thinking, well, I want to embrace this. I don't want to fight it. I'm like, this is what it is, and this is what it means to be middle-aged and going into menopause. And then I had my hormones tested and found out I had Hashimoto's, and just by doing dietary changes, having a low inflammation diet, and doing some supplements, I'm like a completely different person. And if I hadn't asked the right questions, then I wouldn't be feeling as good as I feel today.
What were some of your symptoms?
Well, I definitely started perimenopause early and had just like crazy, crazy bleeding. I mean, Scorsese movie.
I call it Shark Week.
Shark Week.
Wow.
It was Shark Week like twice a month at our house because I would bleed on ovulation too. So it was just so crazy. And my OBGYN was like, well, you need to get an ablation. And I was like, I'm a hippie. I don't do that kind of stuff. And he's like, okay, well, it's an environmental concern for the rest of us. So you need to have this. And I was like, okay. And then I did it. And because I thought, the perimenopause just meant like, 2 years later, I'm going to, be done with this.
That's just so funny that we all, I don't know about you guys, but that most of us thought that it was a like end of period,
Right.
and then
Hot
maybe
flash.
some crabbiness
Right.
and whatever. But, my stuff it started with fatigue, just horrible fatigue and brain fog. And I was running a business and had 12 employees that were constantly asking me questions about stuff. And I'd just be like, I don't know. I just don't know. Make a decision. That's fine. Whatever.